It is a possible cause. I mean, it's one of the factors that is putting us into this situation. Now, remember, it is actually 4 years because the recession that we went into previously was in the middle of 2016. Now, it's just about 4 years and 1/4 or thereabouts. Now, here is something for us to think about. One, before the decline in GDP growth in Q2, if you look at the previous 10 quarters, our GDP growth rate per quarter was at 1.5% to 2.55%, which means in the last 2.5 years prior to going into this negative growth rate, we were growing at an abysmally anemic rate. Our population growth was around 2.6, 2.7% per year, which means that, even though we were as a nation not in a technical recession, since the last recession, we have been growing at an abysmal GDP growth rate, which basically means that jobs were being lost, all kinds of issues were going on. We were actually in a pandemic situation before the pandemic. That's how, so let's actually focus on that. The major factor had been oil price decline when you are an economy that depends on a single product for your livelihood. Now, the second, of course, is that with the monetary policy shifts that were going on, some were experimental, some unorthodox. I had even mentioned in previous occasions that what the central bank governor was doing were quite unorthodox, and I don't believe it would work. There was a very short moment when it really worked, but so far it has been completely, knee-jerk, as the gentleman previously mentioned, and so that now compounded the situation. So in addition to, let's even put aside the COVID-19. So even prior to COVID-19, we were in a terrible situation. Two, the exchange, there was a liquidity constraint as a result of the restrictions and of movement and so on and so forth that basically added to that negative 6.1% GDP growth in Q2, and then the subsequent one, which is the last quarter, which was 3.6% or thereabouts negative. Now, those are not a pretty situation for any nation in the world, let alone a nation of nearly 200 million people. And so we need to do something to boost growth, but that I can leave it for some other time. Inflation from January to date had gone up from 12% to approximately 14.5%. Now, even if we were having positive GDP growth, with the job losses and inflation rate, the average person will feel like it is a recession for them, but let alone when the economists come out and tell us that we are in a technical recession. So essentially, the situation is not pretty for us, economy-wise speaking. And then we may need to have to prescribe some measures. The boundary closure and all of those are all things that factor in. The only shining segment of the economy was ICT. Now, ICT doesn't require any government manipulations. ICT is what I would call a creative and innovative sector of the economy, and to a certain extent, even entertainment, because you don't need any special government intervention for it to work. All you need to do is investors need to look at it as an opportunity that they can put their money in, and they can get better returns. Now, the situation that we're faced with today as a nation requires some hard thinking and hard work from our government agents.